first up, we've got a couple of wooden poles, and those are to hold the string up at either end. Put those over there. So of course the next thing we need is some string, a nice bit of builder string to go between the poles. That over there. This is a line level, so this allows us to make sure our string is completely horizontal, so that's really important, main part of the equipment. A nice shiny shovel is a great thing, a spade in fact. Sometimes a nice little coal shovel is really good too. And of course you can't do this without a trowel, a nice little archaeological trowel. Going back to setting up initially, obviously when you're going to have some sort of a hammer, maybe a bigger one than this, or certainly something like this to knock those pegs into the ground. And we also use a couple of smaller tent pegs as offsets to keep our string tight and to stop our main poles from falling over. Okay, so we get our string line set up, string line all nice and level. We then need to run a long tape measure along in order to measure the distance horizontally, and usually we want a nice little hand tape measuring the vertical depths at each point along a horizontal line. So that's a very handy and important tool to have as well. Going to do with a couple of nice sharp pencils. In order to make sure they're nice and sharp pencils, we obviously need pencil sharpener. So we want an eraser, of course, to fix up all our mistakes as we go along. Some graph paper. Some sort of a drawing board to put that graph paper on to make sure that we can get a hard surface to draw onto. A ruler for measuring on our graph paper to draw straight lines and measuring our distances on the graph paper once we've decided on our scale. Of course, we're going to be here for a long time, so we want something to sit on. That's always handy. If you've got a delicate bottom, you might want a nice soft pad just to make life a little more comfortable. Nice dirty one like that. Maybe a nice brand new clean one like this perhaps. A bucket is always a handy thing. Carry stuff around in, put our dirt in for moving it around, all that sort of stuff. And that should be all the equipment you need, or at least most of it, that you need in order to set up and draw an archaeological section, as you'll see later in the video. So let's just start from about here and go to about here. Right? So we just want to dig a trench, which is, this deep. Doesn't need to be very wide, but we need to keep that edge needs to be straight. That edge needs to be perfectly along the string line. So what you want to do is come along the edge and define your edge at first. Okay.
So now we are using the trowels to clean up this bottom layer and dig a little bit deeper so we can see exactly where this natural clay starts, or where we have a transition from the sand to the natural clay. Often with excavations you'll have a little section against the wall that goes a little bit deeper, so you can see for sure that you've gone through every single context and reached the bottom of disturbed ground, essentially.
We're drawing in the string line at the top of the graph paper so that we can measure when we measure from the string line, we can record that very easily on the graph and draw the section drawing. Using a 1 to 10 scale and a fine tipped pencil for small measurements.
Going to run a tape measure all along the section now for our horizontal measurements.
Okay, so for the section drawing, the scale is 1 to 10 on the horizontal and 1 to 10 on the vertical, and I'm going to be the person doing the scale. And we've got our line at the top, and we'll do the top layer first, and then followed by the bottom layer, and then we will fill in between. And it's important for the person doing the section line drawing to be communicating with the measurer, so they both are aware of what they're measuring at any given time.
So my job here is to measure. Danny will direct me, so the map maker directs the measurer so that we know exactly what points we're looking at, and communication back and forth is very key.
What he said.
We're 1 meter along and we're 42 centimeters down.
Yes.
Excellent.
Okay, so this is a section drawing of the south wall. We're doing a vertical exaggeration, a 2 times vertical exaggeration, which means that this axis is is twice as tall. So it shows that these rocks in the base of the section don't look natural in shape because they've been stretched to twice their height. But this technique's really useful because if we have very narrow layers, they will be expanded further and give us a better chance to see what's happening with those. So we've got a string line across the top here, and the horizontal axis is at 1 to 10, and this vertical axis is at 1 to 5.
Okay, tilt it back and forth a bit so the bubble moves. Beautiful, beautiful.